So most of you, I'm guessing, probably listen to the podcast. Pretty avid sort of podcast listeners when it comes to it, or a large portion of you probably will be. And Morgs is the one, obviously, I've been talking again and again about how highly her episode has rated. It's a really funny thing as well, because even though Morgs is a young lady, it's funny how many guys have been inspired by her journey as well. And so I'm really looking forward to kind of unpacking. It's been almost exactly 12 months since we recorded that last episode. So I'm really looking forward to kind of unpacking this and going through it. And I've had a lot of people, and even Morgs had a lot of people, like people she hadn't seen in like 10 years, and they'd see her randomly or whatever, or they'd message her and stuff as well, just saying like how inspiring the episode was, how much they took away from it, and even like realizing what was possible. You know, Morg starting from the position that she kind of did, and then building what she did, as we covered in that last portfolio investor story. Sorry, crazy to see, and that was titled "How Morgan Built Herself $1 Million in Net Equity by 25, right, or 26, whatever it was.
26.
26. Okay. So, you know. And she did it in 2 years, a little over 2 years. So the journey of what she kind of did during that, I strongly recommend kind of go back and have a listen to that one at some point down the track. But I'll let Morgs do a bit of an intro on, I guess, where we sort of finished up with the portfolio when we did it last time. It was actually the only investor app I probably shouldn't say this. It was the only investor app I ever did with Jimmy, and it's the highest rated podcast we've ever had. Jimmy, maybe you should come do it. No, but it was back when the first one we did for an investor story, and covered your journey. So why don't you give us a bit of a recap, I guess, of where the portfolio is at when we kind of finished up last time, and we can kind of go through some numbers on that if you wouldn't mind, number of properties, and where it was at.
Yeah. So last time we did the podcast, I just settled on property number 5, and I think I just finished building the granny flat on property 4.
Okay.
So the portfolio value then was sitting around 2.35 mil with the 5 properties, and the debt was around 1.5. Now those properties alone have continued to grow over the last 12 months and are sitting around 2.8, which is just shy of 20% growth.
That's the same properties, those properties are now at...
Yeah, those 5, yeah.
Okay, so you've $500,000 growth, is that right, in the 12 months?
If you're good at math, yeah.
Yeah, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
That's big, yeah. Nice. Okay, beautiful. Give or take, right? We'll say 400 or whatever. So you're up a significant amount even on the existing portfolio in that time frame. What about... you remember like yields and cash flows and things like that you were kind of getting from the portfolio at the time? You just completed that granny that we built in Brizzy as well. What were the cash flows looking like on the portfolio? Like even an overall yield, but even the overall net cash flow position as well?
Back then, the granny had just been built. I don't know if it had leased yet, so it ended up leasing for $460 or $470 a week. And then we were renovating the main house, which did drag on a little bit due to my laziness with like approving quotes and thinking that I needed to shop things down further. Once that house got finished renovating it, those tenants from the granny flat actually moved into the front house at $600 a week. So now that's renting, it went from $290 up to $600, and then we released the granny for $450. So
what was your reno spend on the house?
About $25.
Okay.
So it needed a full new kitchen. You could have got away without it at the time, but because it's a granny deal, I decided to do everything at once to really like increase the cash flow, because it is something I'm going to hold long term.
Yeah, sweet. And so that wasn't completed though when we did that last recap, eh?
I think it was in the works.
Granny build, but not the reno?
Yeah, the reno, I think we may have started quoting up the reno.
Okay.
But it sat vacant for probably 4 months, the main house, which is probably a big learning experience. I think I look at you too much sometimes, and like a property sitting vacant for you isn't necessarily the biggest deal. And then I think I told you that I had the tenants move out in March, and I think it was like August, and you were like, "What are you doing with your reno?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." You can't afford to just have properties sitting vacant.
I think it was funny because you kind of said, well, you do with some, and I'm like, a lot of the time when I push renos, it's if we have an urgent, and you can literally ask the project management team, Adriana's at the back, I'll push renos because an urgent client reno comes in, so I can kind of keep pushing mine out sort of thing. My LVRs are a bit lower, my cash flows are a bit stronger, so you probably should pull the trigger on your own renos a bit sooner.
Yeah, definitely. That was a good learning for me as well, just to prioritize my own stuff a little bit more. So once, we finished that one, so now that rents for a total of, I think, like $1,050 a week. The house is 383. I think the granny costs in the high.
70.
Yeah, around 170, 180.
Okay.
And then the renovation.
Okay, sweet. So you're all in for, do you know what you're all in for? It sounds like it's high fives, a little under 6. Haven't worked that out.
Sure.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
Sure.
And you're renting it for $1,050 a week.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a pretty massive result.
Yeah.
The valuation, I think, as well would be $850,000, $900,000
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, awesome. Aside from that one as well, like what else have you done in your portfolio? Like on the existing portfolio, those 5 properties at that point in time, what have you kind of done with those properties? Is there anything else you put levers on or anything else that's sort of gone on through those existing ones?
I haven't done a lot of work to any of the other properties.
Yep.
One of the properties, the first property I ever bought, I am looking to sell. So I've actually had my first QCAT experience and going through like evicting a tenant, which has been, again, just something learning how that all works. So I think they'll be out pretty soon, and then we'll look to sell that one in that market.
Yep. So QCAT, for everyone who doesn't know, is obviously it's a governing body in Queensland in which you have to go through and evict tenants from that end. So probably, again, not to throw you under the bus, but probably a little bit of mismanagement on that property as well, like just not staying on top of it hard enough, allowed it to extend to where it kind of did.
And I felt a little bit sorry because like a cute little old man living there. Yeah. So.
The nicest person in Team APS. No, it was, but it's all, I think the cool thing is like, it's all learnings, you know what I mean? It's not all sunshine and rainbows and all the rest of the stuff. So I think it's good I know you took a big learning out of it because you kind of realize when, you put it nicely how I said it to you when you told me that it had been vacant for 4 months. And because like you got to be brutal sometimes about a portfolio and like what you're kind of doing within a portfolio as well. But I think it was really good because I don't think you, as hard as I probably was on you a little bit at the time when you told me, I don't think you realised the sort of mistake that you were kind of making at the time when you had left it vacant for that long. But then I think like made you kind of kick into gear on all these other ones. It was even with that QCAT one, it kind of pushed into gear on that side as well. So it's funny, like sometimes you can get a little sidetracked or something seems a bit too big or hard or heavy or something like that. So you might put it to the side for a while because it seems like too much of a headache. And that can obviously hold you back from either getting things released, bad tenants out, new deals in and all that sort of stuff as well. So it's been cool kind of watching you go through and knock the little things over since we had that chat.
And probably just staying like on top of the market in terms of rents and making sure we have a lot of property managers who come to you saying like, what do you want to release to the tenants at? So just trying to push that market rent's being achieved every time because that is going to help with my servicing as well and keep me going. So all of my properties, except for the little old man one, have gone up a lot in the rents. Over the last 12 months as well, which has been good.
What have you seen on average as like rental increases across the existing portfolio in the last 12 months? Am I catching out too much here?
Yeah.
All right, but you've seen a fair bit, like fairly strong increases, and obviously you've been other than old mate, the little old man. Other than him, you've been raising rents across the board on pretty much everything.
I think I know a few of them last time. I mean, one was at $290, but that was a really old tenant.
Yep.
I know the 2 in WA. I think one went from $485 to $550 in the last 12 months, and the other was at $350, and I think now rents for $480 or $470.
Wow.
Yeah, so they've all been
$350 to $470, $480. That's massive.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's like a 30% increase.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's massive.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to tell us on the existing portfolio before we move on to what you've done since then?
No, that's about all I did.
All right, beautiful. So that was, from memory, May last year that we recorded that, yeah? April?
We recorded it around April. I think it came out in May.
And released it in May. Okay, cool. So since then, like, give us a bit of a timeline of kind of what's happened here within the sort of portfolio since then as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I ask one question as well? How's your serviceability at this point?
Like before?
Before this, yeah. So like let's think of it like we're walking through telling the story from when that portfolio sort of finished there, and is that why you went through and finished the reno to get that big rents up? Like how's your serviceability looking at this point?
It definitely needed the increase with the main house of the granny deal getting lifted.
Yep.
And I think back then talking to Tiago, it was needing a little bit more income coming through to be able to go again. But with all the rental growth we had over the 12 months. So I wasn't super motivated right after the number 5 settled to keep going.
Yep.
I did take a little bit of time off. And then when it came to getting ready to go again, I remember like getting the email with all the information I needed to provide and thinking it was like way too hard. And I pushed it out for probably 3 months. And then when I actually read through the email, it was like a few pay slips, like a rental statement. I was like, oh man, why did I wait?
So how long do you reckon? So it took you a few months, you didn't do it because you thought it was going to be, you put it in the too hard basket?
Yeah, and I think because I was really late with tax the year before.
Yeah. Is that Nick's? That's Nick's fault, eh?
No, definitely not. That's all on me. I think he just needed the tax, whatever the thing's called when you finish your tax, which I had in my emails, but I just thought it was something I had to do. So sitting down and then opening the email up, I think I did it, got all the documents through in like 10 minutes, but I had taken 3 months to do it. So once I got that to him and we started getting ready to go again, I did have quite a bit of servicing left with all the new rents.
Rent increases,
I was surprised by how much he said I could borrow.
Well, some of those early ones, right? Like I'm thinking about property one that I sourced for you. That would have been renting for, you had little old mate in there, so it wouldn't, but that was like a 200 per.
200.
And what was that renting for? 420?
It's renting at 410.
410. And then the first one in WA, that was a 286 purchase. What was it? What's that renting for?
It was 230, the first one.
Oh, sorry.
The second one. Yeah. And that's renting now for 470, I think.
The first one? The first one in WA? Okay, and
then 286 renting for 550.
550.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're literally running like almost 10% yields on bread and butter.
Yeah, I pulled a lot of equity out of those as well.
Yeah, okay. So it's absorbing it from that side too. Okay, cool. All right, so your serviceability has increased because of all the rental increases you've had across the board. It sounds like it was pretty substantial.
Yeah, and I kept my expenses really low. Still drive the same car.
You're looking at me for?
I'm going to start a petition.
I can't do that.
So when we got back from Japan, I had never been one to write out goals or set goals, and I was a little bit annoyed at myself for not doing much over 12 months, because I think on the podcast I said in the next 12 months I'm going to buy 4 properties. So
yeah, we thought it was really bullish when you said it.
Yeah, I did 0.
Yeah.
So I think I wrote out the goals, printed them, sat them next to the bed, which was like, buy 3 properties this year, and within a week of writing those goals, I'd signed contracts on the first property, which was one of the ones you found.
How, on the scale of properties that have currently been acquired in the portfolio, where would that one rate, discount-wise?
Well, I get you good ones too.
The first, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Well,
talk us through the numbers.
Okay, so this is property number 6. We bought it for 320.
320.
Valued around, I'll let you say this.
At time of purchase, we were valuing it at mid to high 3s. Well, we're in the high 3s. There was one of my agents in WA. We get the best, this absolute stonkers from this bloke, and he had this seller that was going under, and he had to fire sale 5 properties. Actually, a few guys in the room that picked one of those deals up as well. We had to fire sale 5 properties. We had to sign the contracts that night. I think I got a call at about 5 p.m. And they were all pretty ridiculous sort of deals that sort of went through. So, but the cool thing was, like in the location that it was, we kind of were half on our way out of that specific market because it was rising so quickly. Like you think about Jason's list before of stock on market depleting and where they're sort of sitting. This was one of those markets getting tighter and tighter, and the values were just going crazy. And so we were kind of valuing it, high 300s, and then by the time we settled it, because it was a little bit of a it took a little bit to kind of settle from that front as well. I reckon we're talking like 400 to 420 uplift on purchase. So.
Yeah. And they secured 450 a week.
Is that?
Yeah.
How much?
450 a week.
Oh, I think they said 550. I was like, fucking hell, I should have bought it. 450 a week, okay.
Yeah, 450 a week.
So was that like 8%? High sevens, 8.
Yep.
Very well prepared she is.
You said don't go into too many details. So
can I just ask, did you buy that on a 80 or 88% LVR on that one?
So I did 80.
Okay.
I had over the 12 months at least been saving up some money.
Yep.
And then...
And had massive growth.
Yeah, so I think I did a funded deposit on this one.
Yep.
And then, so that was in Feb, and then I think I signed 2 contracts within pretty much 2 weeks of each other. And then the other one I did was also 80%, and I use equity on that one.
Yeah, sick. Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong here. From memory now, as you were kind of talking about that, I think to be able to stay with the kind of mainstream lender you were with at the time, even though you had all the rental increases, the only way you could kind of put it in with them was through 80% lens, right?
No, I don't think so. Or maybe, I don't know.
Ray, you're killing my story here.
You need like a pointer if I'm meant to say yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was. But okay, that's sweet. Okay, so you've gone in and you've bought both of those at 80% LVRs.
Yeah.
So the first one, like the new one that you've picked up when we're first back from Japan, the Stonker.
Mine was good too, the one that I sourced myself.
Talk us through the numbers of the second one.
Okay, property number 7, which settled a couple of weeks ago. Very ugly. We bought it for $345. At the time of purchase, again, it probably was in the mid to high threes. But it was a really good price point to be getting into, and an agent that I was quite close with. So pretty much by the time, even before it settled, when I was up there, so I...
This is the only property you've ever walked through, right, on settlement, yeah?
Yeah. But I was telling a few different agents what I had bought, and like the agents I was buying it from, they knew it was a good price. But it wasn't until talking to other agents, they were like, that is really, really, really cheap. So I think that one kind of sits around close to 400.
Okay.
So that was a really good buy, and they got $450 a week. They're just going through the lease signing now because it just settled.
So $450 on a $345 purchase.
Yeah.
And you're up. Yeah, it's a nice discount, obviously, on that as well.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And the location you picked this one up, because again, this was like a quick sale. They had to move really quickly on this front. And
yeah, there was some old ladies in there that needed to downsize and didn't want to go to market. Yeah,
perfect. Awesome. And I lost what I was going to say. All good. Anything else you want to tell us on that deal as well?
No.
And that's a wrap, guys. There's Morgan Holmes. Joking. Okay, sweet. So you've gone and bought 2 more deals.
Yep.
You've had about $500,000 worth of growth in the existing portfolio.
I do have my numbers now, at least.
All right, well, let's go through those ones.
Okay. So the current value now with those 2 sits at $3,670,000.
Okay.
The current debt is $205,000.
Equity at 1.5.
Yeah, 1.465 in equity. My LVR is 60% across the portfolio, and then I have an 8.8% yield on the debt.
8.8 on debt?
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah.
Do you know the yield on purchase?
I don't know if I worked this out right. It was 8.6 on purchase.
8.6 on purchase?
Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit lower on debt.
Yeah, but it's because I've put a lot of built the granny renovations.
Yeah, true. Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's massive.
Yeah, and I have a lot of 80%, I did a lot of 80% lens.
Purchases,
yeah.
Well. Okay, sweet.
Yeah, pretty much everything's interest only except for, I think I've got my granny deal on principal and interest, and the same as my very first deal, which is locked in at 2.39% for a little bit longer.
And it's got, you bought that at 88, 90% lend. Oh no, did you buy that at 80?
I would have done, it was my first deal, it would have been 88.
Which means your debt was only 175,000 or something. So even though the interest rate is tiny, but then obviously you've got the you've got a super low locked in interest rate, but then also the debt level on it is tiny compared to value, and even with your old man in there, the little old man, not the actual your old man, in there, it's obviously still very strong rent and yield on purchase and on that initial debt as well. So.
Yeah. So the plan with that one, is just to get this guy out and then clean it up and then sell it.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. And then
can I just recap on one thing there?
Yep.
Just glaze over this really quickly. We just scraped $1 million in net equity 12 months ago, and you're almost at $1.5 million net equity right now in 12 months.
Yeah.
$500,000 net equity gain in 12 months. That is a massive result.
Yep.
That's massive. Yeah, that's crazy. How good?
I could probably buy myself a car, but I think you should do it instead.
She's around me. She's going to be direct, right? She's learned to be direct. Yeah, beautiful. Sweet. So, recapping on that, you've got 7 properties now.
Yep.
You're having a look at potentially selling one off. Obviously, the market's peaking out.
Which will free up. I'm tapped out at the moment.
You're tapped out, so
with who I've been borrowing through.
Yep.
But that would free up potential borrowing, and then I can go down a bit more like creative lending.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. What would you say in like probably even looking at it like the whole thing, right? But even specifically in the last 12 months, whole thing. What are your sort of key learnings that you would have taken out of the whole thing?
Probably just to treat it more like a business. Like if I'm making $500,000 in 12 months, like I should be putting more time into that portfolio.
Yeah.
The amount of like overdue rates notices I get is not good.
Telling me.
Yeah. I think just like mapping time out, like you need to put time into the portfolio to check on things and make sure you're keeping things organized, your rents, like it's so easy to let things slip through, which can like really affect you with either the income not coming in or just having bills stack up, staying on top of the maintenance requests as well. So just putting more time into it and more focus. I think it's only 10 minutes probably a week you would actually need to spend to stay on top of everything. I have been good with tracking the numbers and the cash flow side of things. It's just more the little things like the bills and just that pretty much.
I think something important to kind of weigh in on here as well, guys, is exactly as Morg said there, right? She's generated almost $500,000 in net equity in 12 months. And it's going to sound a bit blunt and direct, but she was
standard
too lazy on that end, to do the 10 minutes to do the loan docs to get into the market potentially 6 months. To do your tax returns, you get your loan docs, so you could have been in the market 6 months early, and that number could be bigger. And as brutal as some people might think it is for me to say that, it's true. Yeah. And I think I was a culprit of this kind of early on as well, and I think a lot of people are, right? Like, you go through your journey and like little things rock you, and maybe there's a couple of things that, like I know that Renault blew out longer and all the different things with that. And I think sometimes it can be hard to kind of stay on top of it all the time. What I found was, this is for myself personally, and I know I kind of recommended it to you after as well, is generally like the first new weekend of the month, do your property stuff, right? So like review your portfolio. Review your property management statements. Check your bills. When are your bills due? Have a spreadsheet, have a tracker. Like, when are your bills due that you should be paying? And keep on top of it monthly. Because what I found was there was a period where I went like 12 months and because so much was going on, and I just missed all this stuff, you know what I mean? Because it fell out of my mind. That was the same 12 months that I made like 3 to 4 mil net equity in that growth period there, right? So, and I was making like not even $100,000 a year as a PAYG income. What's more important? The portfolio that can produce that sort of result, or just getting stuck in the day-to-day and making little excuses here and there and all the rest of it? And I think the biggest thing here is like, if Morg's kind of set aside half an hour a month, and it was just like that first Saturday, first Sunday of the month, so she can review all those things I mentioned before, it allows her to stay more consistent and more in line with the goals. And even as she's done there, she's come back, she's reset the goals. Okay, these are the goals. What are the actions I need to take with this? Would have completed everything she needed to from that side, and then bang, it starts moving like that. And having 12 months between drinks is too long in the market, right? Especially in the market that we're in right now. Like, taking 12 months out, that is an amazing result. Could you have had another deal in there? Again, sorry to be the blunt one, and the forward one in the way I look at it. And while it's amazing, obviously it's amazing, right? But these are the things, guys, where you can move so much more, like, forward more quickly and bigger, and just staying on top of all this stuff is so important from this side as well. So I'm not taking anything away from you at all, because it's all learnings, and I've made much bigger mistakes and that sort of thing as well. But I think it's cool, and even as you said, it's like a big lesson that you've kind of learned and a big takeaway to keep your eye on the portfolio. And now you do it weekly, right? And that's massive, you know what I mean, to stay on top of it from that perspective, and you're maximizing your portfolio. Because realistically, you've got a circa $3.5 million portfolio now. The growth that's going to produce, you'll never be able to make that as an income. Yeah, so like the growth it'll produce and like what you can turn that into is always going to outperform. So, like you're saying there, treating it like a business and being more switched on with it, I love the learning side of things from that as well.
Yeah.
Good. What about sorry, I took the floor there. Like struggles or wins, the biggest sort of things that you would have seen in the last 12 months?
Yeah, the struggles is just like time management with stuff. I think doing it every day, like my side of things, I just didn't prioritize. But we see so many good deals and we're in so many good markets that it's silly to not be prepared to buy. And I think like the biggest thing will be just constantly having that open. I know like with the way you are, you're always ready in a position that you can buy. If the right deal comes up, you're there. So I think just doing whatever I can, whether it's stuff to do with tax or my property portfolio, and just continuously saving. So I'm not always relying on equity, and I've always got options so that if the deal comes up, I can say yes to something, and I don't have to like miss out on any opportunities, especially when we're going into some of these markets so early as well.
Yeah, perfect. No, I love that. It's actually kind of key learning, kind of key takeaway from it, keeping in front of it all. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Being ready. So you constantly got the ability to pull the trigger.
Yeah. I think like little things that make it easier as well, like I have an email address just for my property portfolio stuff. That's definitely a good thing to do. I keep both my bank accounts separate. I bank with one bank and all of my loans and property is with another. So if I have equity sitting there, I don't look at it. Like it's not ever something I can see or do anything with.
Kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
So it's just there for the portfolio.
Yeah.
How much do you reinvest back into the portfolio as well? Like how much of your cash do you tip into the portfolio?
I would tip in.
You're obviously not buying a car, apparently.
Yeah, it would be over half. Over half my salary would go.
Okay.
Actually, it'd be more than that.
You pour all that much back into it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I pretty much, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like my, I save my wage, but any commissions go straight into the portfolio. I don't ever touch them.
Yeah,
so I'm just
so
like.
You live off the wage?
Yeah.
Bank
and I
invest the commission.
don't even look at them, and I just live as though that's what I earn.
Yeah.
And I think that's helped me continue saving up and never like lived beyond what I should be. When, as much as I have these properties, I'm not at the point where I need to be blowing my money. It's still in its like phases of growing and setting myself up. I'm not set up yet, so I don't need to live. Yeah.
The luxuries of
Yeah.
life sort of thing.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really cool. That's actually a really cool way of doing it. You know, living on the wage, on the salary, and then obviously investing and saving and repurposing the commission structure. You know, obviously that you make as well from that. And I think it's a really intelligent way of doing it. And I think one of the biggest things of people that I see that are super successful in this is they do keep reinvesting into the portfolio. Mm-hmm. Like the snowball effect and recycling equity, it's amazing. Obviously, it's a super powerful strategy, but you always get the most growth when you are reinvesting back into it as well. So, yeah, I love that little. I didn't actually know that's the way you did it. You live off the wage and then you the salary, and then you obviously reinvest the commission structure. That's awesome. So as a bit of a portfolio recap, 3.35, or was it 3.4 mil?
3.67 for value.
3.6 mil, and then 2.2 mil debt.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're almost at 1.5 mil net equity. What's the current yield on all of that right now as well?
The yield on debt?
Yeah.
8.8.
Oh, that's the 8.8.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
It sits positive right now.
Yeah.
$3,647 a year positive, which is a cup of coffee and a scoop of dry food for Bear.
Right.
Thank you, portfolio.
But I think the other important thing to note is you're sitting at, let's say, a little bit over $3,000, a year positive, which in today's interest rate environment, on a 7 property portfolio, I think most people would agree that's a pretty decent result, right? Like most people at the moment, especially when they're leveraging and they're pulling equity, most people are kind of at best breaking even unless they've done a lot of cash flow deals. You've only got the one cash flow deal in there. But I think that actually tells a pretty compelling story about, for one, the markets we bought in, the growth that we kind of had off the back of that as well. Like to have that yield on debt is massive. Like your yield on purchase would have to be well over 10%. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really, really powerful from that side of things. Because the other way that I look at it too is you've got your granny deal, which is the most expensive deal in your portfolio with the most amount of debt on it, is on P&I. So it's not interest only at 3. You got that one on P&I, and obviously the first one on P&I as well. So realistically, if they went on P&I, it might be sitting at a $15,000-$20,000 per annum net passive portfolio, which is pretty impressive. Yeah, very impressive.
I think most of the interest rates I'm sitting on are in the mid-6s.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah. I think from here, I would like to do another 2 this year, and then I have one more granny site that I want to build on within like the next 6 months.
Yep.
Which I think the granny flat deal definitely is what's keeping my positive cash flow coming in. Okay. But adding in a second granny deal, I think will really help.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Yeah. I love that. Okay, sweet. So round out for the rest of the year, and kind of is that this year you're looking to do that? Knock over the rest of this year? 2 more deals and build a granny?
I think it definitely makes sense to, when you're gearing up to go, like to buy, to kind of prepare as much as I can. So I think if I can do 2 at once, or at least have the pre-approvals for 2,
Yep.
it makes sense to do it all at once.
Yep.
So it'll probably be build the granny now and over the next 6 months, and then get ready by the second half of the year to do another 2.
Yeah, perfect. I love that. Yeah, it's a little hack that I've got. I get 6 pre-approvals at once, and if I use them, I use them. But if I don't, I don't. And it's a funny thing because like I don't buy what most people would buy in this room as investments. I buy the shitters that we've got to put a fair bit of cash into. But yeah, I'll load up with a heap at once, and it's kind of like Morgs is now at that level where, okay, it's not a silly number, but she'll get the 2 at once. If she's going to go through the work and the effort of getting that pre-approval and getting that sorted, she'll go and get the double at once, and she'll probably, potentially get the granny sort of approved at the same time as well. So it's even like mitigating the amount of time kind of within the portfolio, maximising what you're putting out there as well. So that's awesome. All right, guys. Thank Morgan Holmes. Thank you very much for jumping on, sharing your story. Where are you now?
Yay.
Very well. Well done.